Hey everybody, Ryan here. Alright, I'm going to go over the standings video for this week, see what kind of changes we can find. Alright, we're going to start off with the North Division. Last week, Toronto led the division, although they were tied with Edmonton, followed by Winnipeg, Montreal, Vancouver nipping at their heels. Very close. And Calgary, and then Ottawa. Alright, this week, it is Toronto still on the top, followed by Winnipeg, and next up is Edmonton. So Winnipeg passed Edmonton by a point, same amount of games to be played left. Montreal is next still. Now Calgary and Vancouver are nipping at their heels. Did anybody out of those three other than... Okay, Calgary had 2 points. The other two had no points this last week. It's like, wait. Vancouver played 2 games. Calgary didn't play a single game in the last week? Oh, they had a lot of postponed games. I forgot about that. Okay, well, they'll make those games up later. It just gives them more advantage because right now, even if Calgary and Vancouver pass them, they have a 5 and 6 game advantage over both of them. So I don't think it's going to matter much for those two in the long run. All right. So, like I said, Calgary has hopped over Vancouver due to having a game at hand over Vancouver. Ottawa actually had a pretty good week. I went from 23 points to 28. That's 5 points in the last week. And that is in 3 games. 5 points in 3 games. That's pretty good. Especially for a team that's at the bottom of their division. That's doing pretty well in the last week. Alright, so... Jeez. Everybody has a bad record. Alright, Vancouver, Edmonton, and Winnipeg are the only teams with winning records in the last 10 games in this division. That's kind of... Right, well, technically, actually, Ottawa is too, because they have more wins than regulation losses. So, technically, yes. Same with Montreal, technically, but reality-wise, no, they have not. So, that's where we're sitting. I mean, only Toronto has a streak going of any real type of winning 3 in a row. Vancouver's lost 2 in a row, if that counts. So, that's where we're sitting now. I mean, it's still pretty much about the same. I mean, honestly, I think it's between Toronto, Winnipeg, and Edmonton for that top spot. That last spot is really... I mean, technically, Montreal could go past them with the games at hand, but that's the only advantage they have. Alright, into the East Division. Last week, we had Washington and the Islanders tied with 44 points on top of that division, followed by Pittsburgh, Boston, Philadelphia, New York Rangers, New Jersey, and Buffalo. Now, I know we all know about Buffalo's struggles being on a 17-game losing streak, so we all know they haven't got a point for last week, and that has not changed. Alright, now Washington is at top of that division, and also they are tied for top team in the entire league right now. Islanders are still right behind them there with 48 points, followed by Pittsburgh, Boston, then Philadelphia, who has been god-awful of late. Yes, they won their last game, but they've been terrible of late. Rangers are really starting to getting into it. Yeah, they've lost 2 in a row now. That's their biggest downside right now, but they're really starting to get into this race again. New Jersey actually is not doing too bad, considering. And Buffalo, I'm not going to tack salt onto that wound. I'm sorry, Buffalo fans. It's no way in heck is that ever going to happen. That you're making it this year, at least. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. If you have, thank you for subscribing. Alright, going on to the Central Division. Now, last week was Tampa at the top, followed by Florida, Carolina, Columbus, who was tied with Chicago but had the advantage, I believe, in row. I believe is where they had the advantage. No, they only in there. RW. Regulation wins, they had the advantage. So, Columbus, then Chicago, Dallas, Nashville, and Detroit. This week, Tampa Bay is still at the top and tied with Washington for a top team in the league, followed very closely by Carolina, who does have a game in hand, so they could technically hop over them. And Tampa's on a 2-game losing streak compared to Carolina's 3-game winning streak. Next up is Florida, who is not far behind either. There's literally a 1-point difference between those three. 1 point between Florida and Carolina, and then 1 point between Carolina and Tampa, 2 points between Florida and Tampa. So, It's a pretty close race for the top of that division, honestly. Ooh, Nashville has leapfrogged Chicago into a playoff spot. Does that mean Matthias Ekholm won't be traded? Ooh, now they're in the race. Why would they want to trade him? I mean, they're on a 5-game winning streak, 7-3 in the last 10. I mean, Chicago's going downhill pretty quick right now. Lost 2 in a row now, 3-7 in their last 10. Their biggest advantage before was they were just losing in overtime, but now they're losing a lot of regulation games. Columbus is falling behind. They're probably at the irredeemable portion of the year. I mean, Dallas is still in it technically because they still have games in hand. 4 games in hand on all 3 of the teams they're chasing. So 8 points. That put them at 39 points if they win all those games in hand. So they could technically get that 4th spot that way. Then you have Detroit, who's not done bad in last 10. 5-4-1 with a 2-game winning streak currently. Doing fairly well. What's going on with the bottom teams right now in these divisions? They're starting to win all of a sudden. On to the West. Last week, we had Vegas, followed by Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, Arizona. Sorry, my nose itched there. LA, San Jose, and then Anaheim. Not a whole lot of movement there, of course, but it's getting a lot more compacted in some places. Like, Vegas is now only 1 point ahead of Colorado, but Vegas has a game in hand. Then you got Minnesota, who's only 3 back of Colorado and 4 back of Vegas. Then you have St. Louis, who is barely holding on to that last playoff spot. 1 point ahead of Arizona at this point, and 6 ahead of LA, and 8 ahead of San Jose. And technically only 10 ahead of Anaheim. Now, I'm not saying Anaheim's going to make it, and at this point, take the draft pick. Just take the draft pick, Anaheim, please. They're 3-7 in the last 10, but they've won 2 of those 3 wins in the last 2 games. Because they swept St. Louis in the last 2. Now, Vegas and Colorado had a very good series there, but each team won 1, so that was a fun 2-gamer. Minnesota's still doing well, 3 wins in a row, 8-2 in the last 10. They've been just beasts since they came back from their COVID protocol. So, at this point, it almost seems like if they want to win in the playoffs, send your whole team onto the COVID protocol list for the week or 2 before. Not saying you should. Not a good idea. But just saying, look what it's done for them. I think that's the rest they needed, and it made them incredibly good. Not that they weren't before. I mean, they were a decent team before them, but they have been just unbeatable since then. I wouldn't say unbeatable, but definitely really hard to beat. St. Louis just can't figure it out. They're 2-5-3 in the last 10. Ugh. San Jose and LA are mediocre. Arizona's mediocre in the last 10. Colorado's been unbeatable in their last 10, 8-2. Vegas 7-3. I mean, those top 3 teams are definitely the top teams. I thought St. Louis would be in the mix there, but with all the injuries and that, they had not figured out this season yet. All right, now I hate my computer so much, but I lost the rankings for last week, or the standings for last week. So I'm just gonna go with what we have now. All right, the top 10 teams for this week. Tampa and Washington, like I said, are tied, but Tampa holds the tiebreaker, so they're in first technically. Then you got Carolina, the New York Islanders, Florida, Vegas, Colorado, Toronto, Pittsburgh, and Winnipeg. Now, out of all those teams, I think each of those top 10 except Pittsburgh and Winnipeg have been at the top spot at some point this season, I believe. I don't know if Florida has. But still, actually, Carolina I don't think has either. No, I think they were close. Nah, maybe not. But still, these are pretty much the teams that I expect to see being the major challengers for the Cup. I mean, you can always get someone in the lower tier. It does happen. Look at LA when they won from the 8th spot. What was that, 2014? Was that 14? Or was that 2012? But, anyways, it does happen. So, I'm not ruling out any other teams being dark horses, but these are definitely your favorites for the most part at this point of the year. Alright, but, like I said, Minnesota's 11th, and I still think they're a very good team right now. I mean, St. Louis, for how bad they've been doing, they're still ranked 14th. Middle of the pack. I mean, they're not doing terrible. They are in some ways, but not absolutely god-awfully terrible. And I think Montreal can turn it around still. I mean, now they got Cole Caulfield. Let's see how he does when he comes up. They added Eric Stahl. Let's see what this does for them. Now you got Minnesota 11th. They're tied with Edmonton, who they had the tiebreaker of because of games at hand. Then you got Boston, who has been very. They still have a 17-9-5 record, but it seems like they lose a lot more than that. St. Louis is next, then Montreal, Arizona, Nashville, Chicago, Philly, Calgary, and Vancouver. So Vancouver's still towards the bottom, but they've been doing better-ish. Not really, because they lost 2 in a row, but still, they 6-3-1 last time. It's better than how they were doing. And Calgary's continuing that mediocre play. I mean, I swear, it's either they're 5-4-1 or 5-5 in their last 10 constantly. They just can't get that over that hump. They can't do it right now, it seems like. Alright, here's your bottom teams. Now, because of the change in the way that they're going to do the lottery picks, basically the only lottery picks will be the bottom 2. Or the first 2 picks, I guess, for the bottom 2 spots, basically. But I believe it is you can only move up, what was it, 5 spots? No. I think it was like only the bottom 8 teams basically have a chance at getting it, I believe is what it was. I'll have to look at it again. I'll talk about that in the next week's video, because I got to familiarize myself with it before I start blurting off things that are inaccurate. So, I know for sure it is the first and second spot are the only 2 lottery eligible ones, but I believe that starts at the following draft, not this current next one. This next one is following the traditional one that they've had for the last few years. So it's the bottom 3 spots, and anybody who doesn't make the playoffs can basically get it. Has a chance to get the first overall pick. So at this point, the Rangers are 22nd, followed by Columbus, LA, Dallas, New Jersey, San Jose. San Jose begins your bottom 5, okay? It's San Jose, Detroit, Ottawa, Anaheim, then Buffalo. Now, who needs that top 5 pick out of those? Probably not Ottawa. I mean, they got enough talent. Yeah, they're not good, not great this year. They've been doing better than I think most people have figured they would. But at the same time, they had the first over. No, they didn't have first over, but they got 2 really good high picks last year. And honestly, I don't think they need much in the way of prospects. They're going to get a good, solid pick anyways, but at this point, do they need first overall? No. Does Detroit? Yeah, probably, because they really got screwed last year in the picks. Then you got San Jose. Could they use some new talent? Yes. Yes, they could. Could they use a goalie? Yeah, they really need that one, especially. But are they going to use a goalie, use that early pick to get one then? I doubt it. I mean, there's a chance with, it's not Wiesblatt, it's Wazent or something like that. I have to look at the names again. So that's a guy that you might consider if San Jose gets a pick in the, well, they're definitely going to get in the top 5 probably. But that's where we're sitting. I mean, Buffalo probably definitely needs it. Anaheim definitely needs a top-end talent. I know they got some new ones coming up, but they could use some more. And I'm sure Ottawa fans would say the same thing, too, though. So, that's where your bottom 10 are. These are your teams that are most likely to get a chance at that number 1 overall pick. Of course, you got some more up here who have that chance, too. Depends on who makes and who does not make the playoffs, because Chicago is just barely in. It's just barely out, where Nashville is in. Where Arizona is out. So, that's where we're at right now. It's that kind of guessing game. So, that's all the standings. That's all I got for you for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. It helps out the channel, helps me out. And maybe we can get some more stuff and I can do better videos that way, do more intricate stuff. But still, I enjoy what I'm doing, so I hope you enjoy it. Alright. Other than that, make sure to like, comment, share. Let me know what you think of how your team's doing, where you think the standings are going to end up. Alright. I'll talk to you next video. Bye, everybody.